Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Cindy Gilson and I'm an Associate Professor of Gifted Education in the Special Education and Child Development Department at UNC Charlotte. In this video series, I will provide you with a brief introduction to a variety of key topics related to the nature and needs of gifted students in North Carolina. All adults who work with gifted students or those with high potential, including general, special, gifted, and specialist teachers, counselors, and administrators, should have some foundational knowledge about gifted students and gifted pedagogy. If you are interested in deepening your knowledge or eventually working with this population of students, as a UNCC undergraduate student, you could apply to our graduate certificate program as an early entry student. If accepted, you could take 2 of the 4 required courses that lead to an add-on license in North Carolina. The 2 graduate level courses you could take focus on the social emotional needs of gifted students, and then also an introduction to gifted education. Please go to the link at the top of this slide for more information. So let's begin building your foundational knowledge. First, pause the video and think about how you would define gifted. Have you met gifted individuals in the past? If so, what were some of their characteristics? Keep your reflections in mind as we explore what gifted means in the state of North Carolina. Think about how your definition is similar or different. In North Carolina, the umbrella term exceptional children is a designation for students who have different educational needs than the average child. Many children in exceptional children's programs have physical, mental, or social disabilities, but in North Carolina, academically gifted children are also classified as EC. Funding is provided to schools in North Carolina to serve both populations. However, there is very little funding for gifted education at the federal level. Positive news is that North Carolina is one of the few states that has legislation called Article 9B, mandating identification and services, and, as I mentioned, districts do receive funding from the state to support this law, which was established in 1996. Next, let's take a look at the state definition of gifted. Interestingly, in North Carolina, we use the phrase academically or intellectually gifted. This first sentence of the definition indicates that AIG students perform or have the potential to perform at high levels compared to their age mates. What this means is that educators need to be on the constant lookout for hidden talents and potential to excel. Giftedness sometimes is like a seed, and if it doesn't receive the necessary ingredients, it may not grow and reveal itself. Second, students can be identified in different ways, and I will explain more on a different slide. Next, AIG students require differentiated educational services. So here is evidence that AIG is an exceptionality. This means that for students to learn and thrive in school, they may need a different curriculum than the standard course of study. Article 9B also states outstanding abilities are present in students from all cultural groups, across all economic strata, and in all areas of human endeavor. And this is very important to remember as we fight systematic racism by ensuring that we identify gifted students from all underrepresented groups. While AIG is the broad label we use in North Carolina, there are a number of ways to translate this when identifying students. Local education associations, or LEAs, decide exactly how to identify students and what labels to use, but these are the ones that the state uses for reporting purposes. Pause the video to familiarize yourself with the labels. Does anything surprise you? Hopefully, as you can see, these labels remind us of the diversity within the gifted population. So, an essential step towards more equitable identification of diverse students is for all educators to be aware of the characteristics of giftedness. I will next share indicators of academic and then intellectual giftedness. First, academic giftedness is the same thing as schoolhouse giftedness. This means that students perform above or far above their classmates in the same grade or age group in a specific subject area as measured by report cards, subject area tests, or end-of-grade assessments. We sometimes refer to this as asynchronous development because there is a discrepancy between the student's age and their abilities in a subject area. For example, a former student of mine who was 10 years old in the 5th grade was reading at a high school level. Asynchronous development can also be manifested in intellectual giftedness. This means that students are advanced in their general cognitive abilities, their ability to think. Usually this is evidenced by early acquisition of language. Precocious children develop certain abilities very early compared to same-age children. The student I just mentioned taught herself to read around the age of 2. She simply figured out how to break the code of language after first being taught her letters and sounds. Other signs of asynchronous development of intellectual giftedness include having a delay in development, but once the child gets going, they progress quite rapidly. An example includes Albert Einstein, who supposedly did not start talking until age 4. However, we all know that he was highly successful as a theoretical physicist. Quick doesn't always mean gifted. You will also encounter gifted students who are very deep thinkers, who prefer to consider all angles of a topic or issue before responding to a question. Students might also have an intensity about one or more interest areas. They might be highly motivated to master something or learn all that there is to know about, say, dinosaurs or NASCAR. Further, they tend to enjoy complexity in play and learning. Children who are intellectually gifted might prefer learning about how math, physics, and engineering work in tandem to solve real-world problems. They might also grasp abstract concepts earlier, such as empathy for others, cause and effect, or how social structures and cultural norms limit their freedoms. These are the students who have very strong verbal comprehension, above average working memory, or strong visual spatial skills. Importantly, students do not have to display all of these indicators to be identified as gifted. So just a little bit of history here. Traditionally, giftedness was considered as the top 1 to 2% of the population, as determined by a singular IQ or intelligence quotient score. Some schools still require IQ tests for entrance into a program. In these cases, usually 2 or more standard deviations above the mean is considered to indicate intellectual giftedness. But this test is rather biased, so most public schools don't tend to use them. Giftedness has been conceptualized differently by many great male and female researchers and thinkers in the field who have had many years of experience working with gifted students. And one includes Dr. Joseph Renzulli, a pioneer in gifted education. Rather than focusing on the more traditional view of intelligence as measured by an IQ score, he distinguished between schoolhouse giftedness and creative, productive giftedness. So for the latter, these are individuals who apply their gifts in a meaningful, purposeful, and creative way. Gifted behaviors, as he likes to say, are exhibited at the intersection of 3 main components of his conception, which includes above average ability, task commitment, and creativity. Renzulli also recognizes the influence of environmental factors and chance as evident from this graphic above his picture, which means in certain people, at certain times, under certain circumstances, will gifted behaviors emerge. Along with many other gifted education experts, including Dr. Renzulli, I advocate that schools cast a wider net and identify as many gifted students or those with potential as they can find. Additionally, giftedness is not limited to abilities in math and reading. Rather, you can find individuals from diverse groups who are gifted athletes, dancers, comedians, artists, leaders, and musicians, like the famous individuals on this screen. And I also included the 49er symbol because maybe you or someone you know at UNCC is also gifted. Another special population includes individuals who are gifted and have some kind of disability. So for example, Dr. Temple Grandin, in the top right corner here, is both gifted and has autism. She is a famous animal rights activist and fights for the rights of individuals with autism. North Carolina collects data on the number of individuals identified as dual exceptional, also referred to as twice exceptional or 2E. You can see from this table on the screen that there are about 2,500 students in North Carolina identified as dual exceptional. Likely, this is a major underrepresentation since oftentimes a student's disability might mask their giftedness, or their giftedness might help them compensate for their disabilities. And then on tests, it might look like they're average. So to wrap up, a key takeaway for everyone is to understand that it is a myth that gifted students represents a homogeneous group. Rather, gifted represents a diverse and heterogeneous group, although they do share some common characteristics. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please contact me. And if you would like to do more learning, here's a comprehensive list of additional resources.